ladies and gentlemen, Cobra Kai, episode 6, Ouroboros? Like Ouroboros, I guess. It's your boy Icon with a Netflix review for you, and we are going over Cobra Kai. So, Daniel quit. This episode started after Daniel got his brains beaten by Terry Silver. A week later, he gets up in shame, and then he ends up going back to work. He tucks his tail between his legs, and he goes home to become a family man. And then now all of a sudden, his family's on board with it. They're like, no, we must take down Terry Silver. And then Daniel's like, no. He's like, the fight is over. Terry Silver can have the valley. And then, then he sees Johnny. He's like, what the hell are you doing here, Johnny? And he's like, I'm not a pussy, LaRusso. Like, he's just like, well, I quit. And then he walked away in shame. And this is hilarious. This is really hilarious. But more on Daniel later. Your boy Sensei Kreese. Sensei Kreese is back. Him and Tori have basically been conspiring all season, where Tori apparently doesn't even want to be in Cobra Kai anymore. Tori's actually trying to get out of Cobra Kai, but she's only sticking in it because Sensei Kreese is giving her information and putting the battery in her back because they're trying to work down and take them out together. That's what she meant when she said, she was lying to someone that she cared about, because when Robbie kept telling her, we got to get out, we got to get out, we got to get out, she was like, no, I'm not leaving Cobra Kai, and it was bullshit because she actually didn't want to leave. So, but they're working on a plan. And then, she even said, that the things that I've been doing so far, things like leaving notes for Mr. LaRusso, she said that got him beat up and that got him hurt. And then that's when Kreese was just like, oh, well, he was like, that's another enemy off the table. And I'm like, so you're not a good guy. So Sensei Kreese is still a douchebag. And then she was like, you don't care what happens to him? He's like, I only care about Cobra Kai and winning the fight. So he gives her some more information. He's like, eventually Terry Silver will slip up, and then we can pounce on him, and then we can take him down, because every man slips up eventually. Terry Silver now, the woman that trained him, he brought her to America. And when he brought her here, he brought her here with the purpose of, because he finally found his partner. The two of them together are going to take over not only the valley, but the world. They're going to open up Cobra Kai all across the world. And the dream that he sold her, it wasn't built on money or fame or whatever. It was about, legacy with her grandfather, because he was like, your grandfather's talent, his technique must be showcased throughout the entire world, and we're going to put his talent throughout the world. And that made her be like, okay. And then she was just like, oh, but do you think the Americans have what it takes? And then he was like, that's why we're going to take over every single, dojo we can in the valley until we can find the best of the best of the best of the best. They ended up going down to another, I think it was Topanga Karate. And the girl who, I forgot, Devin, the girl's name was Devin. Devin, who was with Eagle Fang Karate, and she was the one that lost to Tori in, in the All Valley competition. Devin was actually at Topanga Karate. So then when Terry Silver showed up, we found out that the sensei in charge, Terry Silver, bought him out, and then he fired him. After he fired him, he said that the woman that he brought overseas and her people, they were going to be trained in the class, and Topanga Karate is dead, and if you want to join that Cobra Kai, here's a gi for you. If you don't want to join Cobra Kai, there's the door, and say goodbye. So everybody stays, but Devin stayed, but she didn't put on the Cobra Kai gi because she said she still hasn't figured out what she wants to do with that yet. And then they do this whole thing, and you thought Terry Silver was bad, like you thought Sensei Kreese was bad, like this chick is a million times worse. She did a thing where she had Devin and Tori, she put a stick in the middle of them, and she told Devin, she said, your job is to get the stick, and she told Tori, your job is to stop her. That whole situation escalated very quickly to the point where Tori basically kicked her ass and knocked her down. They did have a small bonding moment where Tori was actually teaching her the proper way to throw a chop to a neck. They kind of had some words. She let her, she let Tori know that she lost her mom, and the words from her mom was that never give up and never stay, never back down, always stay in the fight. So there was a small little bonding thing going over, but I wasn't happy with her joining Cobra Kai, because in the end, after Tori, because the girl actually got the stick. She got the stick twice. And when they did the whole thing, when the girl, but because the thing was the sensei, the female sensei, she told Tori, you have to win by any means necessary. When Devin got the stick, Tori knocked it out of her hand and then knocked her on her ass. And then Devin got upset and she ran out of the dojo. There was a moment where even Johnny had saw her, and Johnny was going to approach her. He was going to approach Devin, but he was advised against it. So Devin left, and then Tori, she kind of felt bad, but the woman was like, you are champion and you must show your true strength. So then later on, we found out that Devin actually ended up joining Cobra Kai, because she said that after everything that happened to her, getting embarrassed by Tori, she said she's not a quitter, and she's going to stay in the fight until she becomes the best of the best of the best. And I feel like had Johnny gone in that room and actually stopped her and talked to Devin. Devin never would have joined Cobra Kai. But anyway, so so now Devin's in the fold. And then, Tori, like I said, she's still playing the mole, but she's also keeping an eye on the people, that Cobra Kai's got their clutches on. Johnny and Cho, they end up teaming up. They go down to the dojo to kick Terry Silver's ass, but Terry Silver isn't there. And the woman was there. She confronted them, and then he was like, "Oh, we're not gonna let you take the valley." And then she was like, "Silly American, we already own the valley." and then like one of her boys fought them 2-on-1 and whooped both their asses. But I feel like that was more of a situation of youth versus skill. So I mean, but that's nothing for them to like hold their heads down over. So now the whole thing is like Amanda, Johnny, and everybody. They're just like, look. Like Terry Silver brought this chick in and she's a hell of a lot worse. If we're going to stop Cobra Kai, if we're going to take them down, we need the assistance of Daniel-san. But Daniel, he quit karate because he had brought shame to Miyagi-Do. So now they're trying to figure out a way to bring Daniel back into the fold. Meanwhile, Sensei Kreese, he's in prison because people are running up on him for his jello. And he's in therapy sessions and he was pretending in therapy to be a nice guy, hoping that he can get released early. That backfired because the woman who, and this is cool, the woman who played his therapist, she was on Doom Patrol in the Sex Patrol episode. She played one of no, it was, yeah, I think it was called the Sex Men. That was their names. The Sex Men. It was a group that called themselves the Sex Men that go around busting horny ghosts. She played one of the sex ghosts, but she also played on Black Lightning because she was the mom whose daughter was being held captive by Lala and turning tricks at the motel. And then she was the one that Lala shot because she had got footage of him, like basically killing her. Like, because she ran up on Lala to try to save her daughter. He was like, "Yo, get up off me, woman." And then she shot her. And then he shot her and then she died. She ended up being one of his tattoos when he became the tattoo man. And that was the classic line when Tobias Whale went to go see Lala. He was like, "You shot somebody's mama?" But she played the mom in that. So that was actually pretty cool. Nice to see her still out here getting it done. But she was the therapist, and she told Kreese, she was like, "Look," she's like, I'm hip to the bullshit." She's like, "I know you're faking it." And she said, if you want to get out of here, if you want to have a release, you and I need to have a legitimate, real 100% conversation. And then we got deep into some Sensei Kreese stuff where he was talking to all of his demons, the woman that he lost, Tori, the people he failed like Johnny and everything. And then at the end of it, he kind of had a change of heart. And then the same people in prison that was, I guess, like running up on him for his jello, he whooped their ass. So I guess he's kind of turning over to the good side. Like if that's where we're headed with this, we're headed with Sensei Kreese turning to the good side. So, but we'll see, because he's not out of prison yet. So when he finally gets out of prison, we'll see where his head is at and where this whole thing lies. And then finally, at the very end of the episode, Amanda got Daniel to go to Miyagi-Do. There was a secret room in Miyagi-Do that Daniel was like, "I never go in there," which was Mr. Miyagi's like old room. So she brought Daniel in there. Daniel went in there, looked around, saw like the writing and the pictures and the photos and the bonsai tree and everything. And he was like, "Yo, it's like a time capsule in here," which I thought was hilarious. Amanda shared a story with him about a conversation she had with Mr. Miyagi before they got married. And then that's when Sam came in and she was like, "I was afraid too, Dad, but I see now we have to fight." And then he was like, "Oh, but I can't fail any kids." And then Robbie showed up and he was like, "You didn't fail me." He's like, "I'm still here and I thank you." He's like, "I'm sorry, I couldn't see the lessons you tried to teach me," but he's like, "I didn't see it." And this was cool because he said, "I didn't see those lessons until I ended up mentoring somebody. And now I see like the effect that Cobra Kai has on them and that Cobra Kai has their clutches into him." He's like, "We got to save the valley." And then, then they went outside and then all the kids were there. Like apparently there are kids in the season because this season so far has been about the adults. Like the show started being about the children and teaching the next generation. This entire, I don't know if child labor law came into effect at some point, but this entire season has been all about the grown adults doing grown adult shit, fighting grown adult people. So, but now the kids are back. So now we're halfway through the season. We're actually going to get the show that we were supposed to get, which is a battle between the kids. And what they're doing makes perfect sense because Terry Silver's plan is basically to control the valley first and before he expands. He's buying up all the dojos. He's paying off all the senseis. Terry Silver is putting himself in a position where Cobra Kai is basically going to be the only karate dojo in the valley. But in order for Terry Silver's plan to work, he needs to get his hands on every single dojo. But now that Johnny, Daniel, and the boy Cho, now that the three of them have come together to create something new, to create a new dojo, that'll be the one dojo that Terry Silver can't get his hands on. And now we have to have a competition of some sort or some sort of fight or whatever, because now in order for because Terry Silver can't run the Valley if he doesn't own Miyagi-Do. So that's the last thing he needs to get, he needs to get on board. Even Daniel's son joined the fight, which I thought was crazy. Miguel was there, who didn't do jack in the entire episode. The Hawk was there. So like I said, so the show is transforming back into what it used to be. So we'll see what happens. Now everybody's on the same page. We're all friends here. You know what I'm saying? Like Johnny and Daniel are friends. Like Miguel and Robbie are friends. Sam's there. Like everybody cool. So we did the whole thing where it's like me versus you, then it's you versus you, then it's me versus you versus her versus you. Now we're all on the same page and we're all friends. I mean, Tori, she's on the good side too, but they just don't know that yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when all this unfolds. I'm actually very excited to see where this goes. I'm looking forward to the next episode, and thank you for tuning in. So share your thoughts about this particular episode of Cobra Kai. What do you think about the whole thing with Daniel quitting and then, trying to come back, and the whole thing with Johnny, the funny scene where Johnny and Cho had this whole conversation back and forth about how much they hated Daniel. Then they had a conversation about how much better the other one was at helping Daniel improve or whatever. So I said, share your questions, comments, and concerns. What do you think it'll go from here? And we will continue to talk about it. So hit up my other videos on my channel. I got Stargirl on the channel. We're still doing She-Hulk on the channel, sweet Lord. And like I said, we're rolling this thing on because I heard Titans is coming back soon, and we're definitely waiting for Titans. So that was it, guys. So until next time, for some Cobra Kai action, take care. And until next time, I'm out this. Biatch.